For the past year or so, Zhiyun has been reintroducing form factors in which lights could possibly come in. When the MOLUS X100 came out last year, it wasn't that we've never seen a 100-watt bicolor COB before, we've just never seen it in a form quite like this. This MO continues for the two latest lights, the MOLUS X60 and the CINEPEER CX100. 60 and 100 watt COB fixtures designed with a pretty avant-garde approach. The X60 is the whole new face this round, and the CX100, which was announced about a week ago, is actually a budget-friendly doppelganger to the MOLUS X100. This new CX100 is part of a new lineup known as CINEPEER, which is separate from the MOLUS lineup. In broad strokes, these actually sit well within the same category of lights. Both are battery-powered 100-watt bicolor COB lights. The biggest difference would be the battery is not removable on the CX100. That means if you're out shooting and don't have access to house power, if the battery runs out, this unit's done for the night. Though in terms of cost, the CINEPEER CX100 is being offered at a much lower price compared to the MOLUS. The CX100 will launch at $199 for the standard kit, which is nearly half the price of the MOLUS X100's combo kit, and that's the kit where a battery is actually included for $349. Despite the rather big difference in price, the CX100 really isn't too much of a spec down. It's only done away with some of the little things we could live without. They've, for example, removed the display. There's no longer amp connectivity, some metal bits of the build have been replaced with plastic, but that actually contributes to the CX weighing in over 100 grams lighter than the already lightweight MOLUS X100 with a battery. The CCT plus dim knobs also now have hard stops and absolute positions which are labeled. To some extent, I actually prefer these knobs in the sense that they feel a little more analog. But those aside, the CX100 shares the same form factor as the X100, with a battery attached, offering the same amount of output. They're compatible with the same accessories, you can adapt them into Bowens mount, though I did notice the battery specs are a bit different between the MOLUS and CINEPEER. They are both, however, rated for 30 minutes of continuous output at full power. I did my own testings to confirm, and the results do check out, though the CX100 did hang around for a couple more minutes compared to the X100. But to be fair, the battery on my MOLUS does have about a year's worth of wear on it. For even longer runtimes, your options for continuously powering the CX100 are the same as the MOLUS, USB power delivery or the included DC adapter. What is kind of a fun fact is both the new products I've got here share something in common with the MOLUS X100. The CX100 is an adaptation of its design, and this new X60 shares the same battery as the X100. This X60 is a member of the higher-end MOLUS line of lights, and if you remember, there already was a 60-watt light within the MOLUS line, and that's this MOLUS G60. I loved how the G60 was just a tiny lightweight cube, but it must be powered externally because it did not have its own battery, and that's where this X60 comes in. The form factor is kind of like an in-between between the flat X100 and cube-shaped G60. Like the X100, you pop its battery onto its side and it also doubles as a grip. If you already have a MOLUS X100, you can share its batteries with the X60 and vice versa since they use the same battery. Though I did notice some slight differences in the batteries which ship with the X60. First being the color, it's silver to match the body of the X60, and the enclosure is now plastic instead of metal. This does make the X60 batteries 65 grams lighter than the X100 batteries, but in terms of capacity, they are exactly the same. This being a 60-watt fixture, the same battery which powers an X100 for 30 minutes can keep the X60 running for 50 minutes. You of course also have the options to power this via DC or USB PD. What's nice about the battery being removable is if you do plan to hook it up to house power, you can lose the battery grip altogether, meaning smaller footprint and less weight to mount. The X60 has a single 1/4 inch socket on the base for mounting. For going onto light stands, I find the easiest way is to simply use the Bowens mount adapter like I've done with the G60 and X100s. One more thing that's really exciting about these new X60 lights is they're not only available in bi-color this time, there's also an RGB version. So it's a battery-powered, very tiny, and very powerful RGB COB light. I believe this is Zhiyun's first ever full-color point source lights. These full-color models get HSI and RGB modes in addition to CCT mode. It's also got effects and a music mode which works using its built-in microphone. This does also get wireless app control via the ZY Vega app. Directly from the lights though, I do quite like how the metal control dials feel on the X60. But if there is one complaint I have about these lights, it would be how the minimum brightness of 1% is actually really bright. I believe there aren't many situations where this might actually be a problem. You generally want your lights to be bright, but just putting this out there, the dimming starts off pretty bright. This time around, it kind of feels like we're taking this form factor of lights for granted because we've previously already seen what Zhiyun's done when it comes to shrinking lights down. But again, for 60 and 100 watts of output, it's unreal to pack that in a footprint this minimal. The almost impossible form factor is one thing, but the pulling factor that keeps me coming back to these lights is how you can pick this up and go knowing you have a self-sustained light source. The battery sorted out, it's totally independent, and we're talking output figures, which are still useful even for stuff like large softboxes. If these are lights that you would be interested to adding to your kit, and they're not even going to be taking up much space anyways, I've got links below for anyone interested, and I'll be seeing you around.